ready to go? The House will come to order. Messages from the Senate. Being no objection, we'll revert to messages from the Senate.
Messages from the Senate. This is the Hoppe motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendment the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File 1134, an act relating to insurance. Hoppe moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File 1134 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
I recognize the author, Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker and members, this is House File 1134. This is the annuities bill. This bill has been with us for a year. It's been the subject of a lot of back and forth negotiation. We sent the House file to the Senate. I think it had 6 no votes when it left here. The Senate put some amendments on. I am at the end of my speaking on this bill. I've talked enough about it. Representative Davids, I think, wants to speak a little bit about it. Representative Atkins is going to explain the Senate amendments, and Representative Hillstrom is going to explain her opposition to the bill. So with that, Madam Speaker, I will sit down and yield to whoever is up next.
I recognize the member from Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And I'd like to thank Representative Hoppe and Representative Atkins for their tremendous work on this bill. Now, this is an extremely exciting subject. This has to do with annuities. And where this comes from is in the federal Dodd-Frank legislation, there was a Harkin Amendment put on. The Harkin Amendment said that if you were an annuity company doing fixed index annuities, that there are 3 ways that you can protect yourself from liability. 40% of indexed annuities are manufactured in Minnesota and Iowa. Iowa has passed this, most states have. I find it quite interesting on this bill because I chaired the Commerce Committee for 6 years, and when the insurance commissioner, regardless of what party that commissioner was from, would come to me as chair and say, this is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners language.
He gets that.
We would look at it, we would read it, and then we would always adopt it. It's been well thought out by the insurance commissioners from 50 states that this is the protection that seniors need. So in the Harkin Amendment, this is one of the areas that could be used to protect senior citizens regarding suitability. When someone buys an annuity, if it's a fixed annuity, the money is guaranteed, but in annuities you have a longer period of time where you take the money out. And so if you do not have the liquidity, you may not have a suitable sale. So what this bill does is, this is not exactly the NAIC model, National Association of Insurance Commissioners model. This is the NAIC model on steroids. In fact, members, we passed this bill, the governor signs it into law. This would give the seniors in Minnesota more protection on this issue than any other state in the country. This is about protecting senior citizens. If you vote no on this conference report, you are voting against protecting senior citizens. That's exactly what you're doing, no more, no less. That's why this bill passed the other body, 59-6, and 2 members were gone that were for it. And so, members, as we get into the discussion on this bill, this is a very important bill for protection for senior citizens. If you vote no, you are voting against the strongest protection for senior citizens in the country, bar none, even more than California. Now, it goes deep here. There's a long history of our Attorney General's office suing insurance companies. What this does, this says if this is adopted in Minnesota and the companies comply, with the NAIC model, which of course they would, that they have some relief from liability. I'm very concerned that the Attorney General's office is not supporting this. Why in the world the Attorney General's office would not support the strongest protection for senior citizens in the country is far beyond me. So as we go on here, Madam Speaker, I would certainly stand for questions. And again, I thank Representative Hoppe for all of his work on this, and I'd really like to thank Representative Atkins for his work on this. It's been a bipartisan effort, and I think protecting senior citizens should be a bipartisan effort. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd actually like to make a motion not to refuse to concur.
Representative Hillstrom makes a motion to not concur.
Hillstrom moving to move that the House refuse to concur in the Senate amendments to House File 1134 and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 or 5? 3? 5?
Member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, Representative Hoppe and I have had a number of discussions regarding this legislation. I want to alert the members to a letter that's at your desk, signed by both the Governor and the Attorney General. And basically what they say is that they have significant concerns and that they have continued to work on the legislation. They continue to oppose the legislation despite the amendments that were put on in the Senate. Members, no one disagrees that we need to protect senior citizens. The question is, does some of the pieces in this bill actually give large exemptions and make it so that if people comply with federal law, they are exempted from Minnesota's standard? The question isn't whether or not we want to protect Minnesota seniors, but how we want to protect Minnesota seniors. I encourage this to go to conference and to get it right and get a bill that the Governor can actually sign. As you can see, both state that in its current position, they cannot be for the bill. I think that it's important that in the end we end up with a bill the Governor can sign. And so I ask that you send this bill to conference.
The member for Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I rise to speak against the motion to refuse to concur, but I would like to clear up the record. I made a statement that was not correct. I said that there's limitations on liability protection. That is not correct. There's no limitations on liability protection. The companies would still be open to the liability issues. What it does, it protects them from federal regulation. And the federal regulation is the SEC taking these over, considering them as variable contracts, and we really don't want to go there. So I would, to the motion, I would vote no to send this back. This bill cannot get any better. They can negotiate all day long with the Attorney General's office and Governor's office, but I think if we send a strong message, 59-6 in the Senate, 134, or I guess Lyle's not here, 133-0 in the House, and I think their opinion may change. This is the strongest protection for senior citizens in the country. Why in the world would we even think about sending this back to conference? Please do not support the Hillstrom motion.
Any further discussion? The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, with all due respect to Representative Hillstrom, and we have had a number of very good discussions about this today, I would encourage members to vote no on the Hillstrom motion, and I would like to concur with the Senate. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll take the vote on refusing to concur. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The motion does not prevail. We are on the motion to concur to the Senate file, or to the...
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion? The member from
Dakota.
Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, members. I know that insurance law and annuity law for some people is not the most interesting thing in the world, but it certainly is for me. What I wanted to point out is the first point I would make is I have all the respect in the world for our Attorney General, for the Attorney General's office, for the Governor, and for their principled opposition to this bill. The main difference that we have is in how we approach this from a philosophical standpoint. The proposal before you, in fact, most of you, how many park in the ramp? I'm guessing that just about everybody parks out in that ramp, and as you come out of there, you have all these road signs now that kind of give you some guidance as to where you're supposed to go. Picture that whole area with no stop signs, no direction symbols, nothing, no lines on the road. That is the situation that we could have. What this does is it sort of sets up the boundaries, it sets up where the lines are on the road, it shows where the stop signs are and where the stoplights are with respect to the sale of annuities. If you are on the Attorney General side of this, they've done an excellent job over the years of working through consent decrees with various insurance companies, dealing with the issues after there's been a problem. The point here is it's no different than dealing with your own children. You set up some boundaries where there are some fences or some lines that shouldn't be crossed, where there's consequences if those lines are crossed. The point here is to work at prevention. That is the fundamental philosophical difference between this approach and the approach that the Governor and the Attorney General's office apparently would like to take. I much prefer, and I think most of the folks that I talk to much prefer, to have an effort at prevention so that as we move forward with this, they know where the lines are, and if you cross those lines, you know that there's going to be consequences. There is absolutely no question any further, Madam Speaker, particularly with the 3 amendments that went on, or the 3 changes that went on in the Senate, that this is by far the strongest, most protective statute that any state will have in the United States of America. So if you want to protect, if you want to prevent the sort of behavior that has caused problems in the past, this is the way to do it. I would suggest that we do this, we come back, we continue to work on it. Next session and in following sessions, it's no different than the road signs and the lines on the road. Sometimes speed limits change, sometimes various changes are made as the future comes before us. But at least at this point, let's draw some lines and let people know where they can go and where they can't go. So I think Representative Hoppe and Representative Davids, I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the effort of our Senate friends to make the bill even stronger, and I'd urge a green vote on the motion to concur. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendments, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted, and the clerk will give the bill its 3rd reading as amended by the Senate.
3rd reading, House File 1134, as amended by the Senate.
3rd reading. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 110 ayes and 17 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by the Senate, and its a title agreed to. Conference Committee reports on Senate files.
Message from the Senate. This is the Sanders motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate concur in and adopt the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File 2324, an act relating to occupational licensing. The report's addressed to the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate, the Honorable Kurt Zeller, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File 2324, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by all three conferees on the part of the Senate and all three conferees on the part of the House. Sanders moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File 2324 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by conference.
I recognize the author, Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I urge adoption of this Conference Committee report. The Senate took all of our language, which was passed off the floor 133 to 0. There were a couple questions. Those were answered by House Research and House staff. This bill is in the shape that we like it to be, and I urge adoption. Thank you.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on Senate File 2324, please say aye. Those opposed? The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, Senate File 2324, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Representative Lomer votes aye. There being 129 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to.
Message from the Senate. This is the Erickson motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File 946, an act relating to education. Conference Committee report is addressed to the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate, the Honorable Kurt Zeller, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File 946, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by all three conferees on the part of the Senate and all three conferees on the part of the House. Erickson moves that that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File 946 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by conference.
I recognize the author, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is Senate File 946, the innovation bill for our school districts. You will notice the conference committee report shows that we added an appropriation to ensure that the department has dollars to review the applicants, work on the selection of participants with an advisory group, and then evaluate the projects, the pilot projects thereafter. I would ask for adoption, please.
Is there any discussion? The members from Crow Wing, Representative Ward.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And would Representative Erickson please yield? She yields.
Representative Ward.
Representative Erickson, I just want to be sure and clear on this. Leaving the House floor, I think there was a Gavel amendment that deleted the preschool Labor Day start. Are we still in the same situation here?
The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Ward. I did that deletion, yes. That's still in place. The House language was accepted, and I will address that in my next remarks. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on Senate File 946, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The clerk?
No.
The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, Senate File 946 is amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Any further discussion? The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Yes, this is an innovation bill. It does not have any kind of Labor Day, pre-Labor Day school start. We removed that when it went to the Senate, and the Senate didn't concur with some other items, and they asked for a conference committee. And so the conference committee came together, and we were able to prevail on the House language. But members, I want to pay special tribute to a couple of the conferees. Because neither will return next year, and it has been a joy for me to work with Representative Greiling and Representative Biskins. As you know, Representative Greiling has become an expert in school finance and has done a great deal of legwork for us and has prevailed for years in helping us to ensure that we have a well-funded public education system. Representative Biskins formerly served as chair of policy and also was very learned and is very learned in the area of finance. So members, before we vote on repassage of this, I do want you to know that I publicly want to commend Representative Greiling for all of her years of service to K-12 education and to Representative Biskins as well. Thank you, members, and I look forward to a green vote from all of you.
The member from St. Louis, Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Erickson, will you tell me if I'm correct that you still have 2 pilot projects? And then can those pilot projects decide the starting and ending dates for their school year? Those, I'm confused.
Are you asking her to yield?
I would like Representative Erickson to yield.
The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Murphy. There are no specifics in this innovation. 2 districts can come together, and the commissioner can choose between 3 to 6. So it's going to be in the hands of the commissioner and this advisory group that she's going to bring together. The bill is now silent on any of that. I do not know whether or not districts might consider that, but you know, we took it out of the bill, so it was not a specific provision, and therefore, you know, I just can't answer your question exactly because I don't know if their proposal will offer this, but it's likely, you know, that the commissioner will have an in-depth discussion with these districts that might want a pilot project, that might want to alter their calendars. So, you know, I don't know that. That'll be left up to the advisory group and the commissioner, but it is not in the bill, and so it is not, you know, an obvious thing that they can do anymore.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Greiling.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, and thank you, Representative Erickson, for those kind words. We did have a very good time on the very short conference committee, and I urge members to vote for this bill. Any controversy that might have been there with a few members, I think, was taken care of in the conference committee with the appropriation, so it's not one more thing for the department to do without any new money, and they were fine with that. Education Minnesota was happy with the language in there about employment, and I think it is a bill that will hopefully encourage innovation. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 128 ayes and 1 nay, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to.
Madam Speaker? Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate File 1895, an act relating to assumed names.
Madam Speaker? You're in it?
First reading of Senate files.
Introduction and first reading of Senate File 1895, an act relating to assumed names. Simon moves that Senate File 1895, House File 2450, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
There's no objection, so ordered. The member from Dakota, Representative Wardlow.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I rise, Madam Speaker, under Rule 1.03 to move the House to advance to Order of Business 11, motions and resolutions.
Representative Wardlow moves to Rule 1.03.
Madam Speaker.
The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move to recess.
Representative Hoppe moves to recess. Do you have a time?
Madam Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Madam Speaker, I move to recess until 8:30.
Representative Hoppe moves to recess to the time of 8:30. All those in favor of moving to recess, please say aye.
Is the motion to recess
Those opposed?
Madam Speaker.
We are in recess until 8:30.
Madam Speaker, this is a debatable motion.